Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me clearly? Hello?
Hello, this is Lita.
Can you hear me, ma'am, clearly?
Yes,
I can hear
loud and
you.
clear.
Okay.
Yes, we can
Welcome.
hear you.
Welcome our another webinar.
We cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Can
No,
you hear?
I cannot hear you.
Oh, you, okay. But other person is hearing me.
Still not. Is it my problem? I have to leave and
Good morning, Mr. George. I think it's some problem in
all of thing, I guess.
Zakir bhai, you are hearing me, right?
Yes, hear you.
Okay. Maybe, sir, from your
Hello.
end, can you, Dr. Grinson?
So
from
I
your
think
side? Sir, Dr. Grinson? So is it okay now? Oh, he left. Maybe he will join again. Let's wait for a few minutes more. Yes, he is joining now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you too. Okay, then it's solved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. So, okay, we are going to start our today's webinar. Before moving to our today's webinar, I just want to give you a short introduction of the speaker and also our organization. So, welcome again, the CIRDAP webinar series of 2023. My name is Grinson. I'm communication officer. I'm working as a communication officer in Center on Integrated Rural Development for Asia and the Pacific, CIRDAP. Many of you have known about our organization, but still I would like to give a very short description about our organization. It was established back in 1979 on 6th July with the initiative of Asia Pacific region and also FAO and also other UN bodies and donors. And we have three governing bodies. The first one was Governing Council, GC, and then Executive Committee and the Technical Committee. You can see here, this is our 15 member states in this map, and Bangladesh is the host country as CIRDAP is situated in Bangladesh, Dhaka. And this is our headquarters, the beautiful called Chameli House. It was established back in British period, 1920. It is two-storied building. Later, after the independence of Bangladesh in 1987, the host country Bangladesh, they handed over this Chameli House to CIRDAP. Now, about today, we are going to have a webinar on World Fisheries Days. Actually, the World Fisheries Days is on 21st November, but today we are going to have the webinar. And our honorable speaker is Dr. Grinson George Padinjakara. He is principal scientist, Fisheries Resource Management in Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute. So I would like to give a very short brief about him. His focus of research is fisheries or oceanography, marine ecosystem studies, climate change issues in marine science. Dr. Grinson George graduated in fisheries science in KAU Merit Scholarship from Kerala Agricultural University during April 2000, completed Masters in Fisheries Resource Management from CIFE Mumbai in August 2002 with ICAR Junior Research Fellowship, and taught fisheries for an academic year 2003 under Ministry of Education, Republic of Maldives during 2003. He is a qualified CSIR-GRF in life science and completed PhD in marine science from NIO Goa University. Joined CIARI Port Blair as scientist in June 2005. Later joined as senior scientist at CMFRI Kochi, presently working on marine fisheries productivity and climate-based changes in marine resources. He has lots of current research projects is going on with ICAR. You can visit those in our website also, and also the website of ICAR. So at the end of the webinar, at the end of the presentation, you can ask directly questions to our speaker also, or if you have any suggestion opinions, you can drop it in our chat box. And a humble request to all of you during the presentation and also the question and answer segment, please mute your microphone. You can visit our LinkedIn, our social media pages, and also our website. So thank you very much. Now I welcome Dr. Grinson George to start presentation of his today's topic.
Thank you, ma'am. Just a small correction in my designation. I'm head of division of marine biodiversity and environment management. I lead a team of 21 scientists at CMFRI dealing with marine biodiversity and environment management. That happened after I joined back. I was working with SARC Agriculture Center in Dhaka, Bangladesh. That's where my association started. That time, I was affiliated to a former division, which she was indicating. Now there's a small change. Thanks for this opportunity.
Okay, change it, sir. Okay.
So today we have, as far as I know, we have two major festivals happening. One is our Loy Krathong Festival, the Festival of Lights happening in Thailand. I wish all from Southeast Asia a wonderful festival of the joy of lights. Then we have Guru Nanak Jayanti, the festival happening in India. So I wish all those who are celebrating Guru Nanak Jayanti also a great time. So let me start my presentation. I hope my screen is visible now. I will go on presentation mode. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Today I will try to discuss something on sustainable fisheries and aquaculture with the impact they have because of climate change and what can be some of the mitigation measures. I will give more adaptation strategies because mitigation measures are comparatively less compared to the adaptation strategies what we have, but still there are some possible mitigation happening throughout the world because the theme of World Fisheries Day is indicating like how sustainably the port management measures can be enabled so that there can be better sustenance of activities in the climate change scenario. Thanks, CIRDAP, for this opportunity. I think this is my third lecture in the webinar series. As all of you know, like we have sustained increase in sea surface temperature. There is no doubt about it. We have high heat incidents. So every year the records are getting broken up. But the question asked by some of the cadets, there is sustained activity called climate change or not. Some of them told, like in the geological time scale, if you see, temperature increases happened in the present recorded high temperature several years in the geological time scale, and there was a peak of temperature increase happening that time. That time also, the carbon dioxide presence in the atmosphere also was very high. So this is one debate what is put forth by some of the paleoclimate scientists. They were telling like this is the same peak what we are happening in the geological time scale. But the climate scientists, they have a counter argument. They have put forth clearly that among the greenhouse gas emissions post-industrial revolution, but the presence of methane is still much worrying. Methane is at least 4 to 5 times more in the atmosphere than ever recorded during the entire geological time scale. And methane, is a deadly gas. It can have serious temperature increase more than carbon dioxide. Now we have sources acting from the ocean itself as methane sources. From the ocean gas hydrates, methane is coming out. Previously, such a situation was not there. We always thought oceans can sink in methane. Whenever there is more methane in the atmosphere, some of the methane can be sinked to the ocean. That was the idea. This sinking of methane was happening into the ocean. But now, oceans are acting as sources because the balance. So gas hydrates in oceans are coming out, and more gas in the form of methane is there in the atmosphere. There is a terrible upset of balance. So it is not the same realm what we had in the previous geological timescale what is existing now. There is a serious change. The temperature increase is just a symptom, but all the underlying process, without doubt, clearly say that there is a climate change process happening in the planet Earth. There is no doubt about it. And this change is seriously seen as a symptom in the form of increasing temperature. Increasing temperature is a symptom. It is not really the cause. The cause is the increase in greenhouse gas emission. We may have pre-recorded historical emissions happening much before the time scale, but the methane emissions are typically different, and that is really impacting because the increase in temperature is more because of these greenhouse gas emissions in different forms. It is creating a lot of disturbances. Temperature increase is not just temperature increase. If we are able to tolerate to the temperature, we think that we can make some sort of solutions. It is wrong. This temperature increase in nature is really impacting a lot of the things. Our all primary needs like food, water, shelter, occupation, everything, clothing, all those things are getting disturbed. So it is not just the increasing temperature, but what is happening because of this increase in temperature is most disastrous, like in the form of floods, droughts, cyclones, windstorms, heat waves. The frequency is increasing. The intensity is increasing. So this is one of the most crucial challenge in this century. And it is impacting primary sectors like the food producing sectors like agriculture, which can food insecurity. We can have dearth in potable water. There are problems of sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Water-associated diseases are increasing more. When the temperature is increasing, normally the microbial load also increases. When there are more pathogens in this environment, that can create a risk of health. So environmental health is important because if environmental health is disturbed, it can manifest in the form of different health issues, and water-associated diseases are increasing. It can affect the human health also. So it is not only the increasing temperature, but all associated problems because of this increasing health, which makes it important to learn more about the change in climate. Locally, if we can say the change in weather on everyday basis, what is happening here, we have to do a proper scrutiny and come up with some solutions so that the mankind will remain in this beautiful planet. My examples will have more emphasis on Northern Indian Ocean region, particularly India as a country, because my studies are more happening in this part of the world. I have some studies associated, but still more of the examples will be coming from the Indian conditions, which will give some ideas on what is happening in the tropics, which is seriously affected, which is happening in subtropics also. So some of the studies related to the tropical cases and subtropical cases will be shown here. We can clearly say that because of the high population density and large amount of people present in this part of the world, all these disasters will have a serious issue with respect to the human life also. The number of people who are having a casualty because of this unprecedented incidents, it's more in this part of the country. And the Northern Indian Ocean region being a ocean which looks like a pond rather, because we have the Asian continent sitting on top of the northern Indian Ocean, unlike the Atlantic and Pacific. Pardon? Is there an issue?
No, sir, you can continue. You can continue.
Okay. So when there are such problems happening, the impacts is more evident in Indian Ocean region compared to Atlantic and Pacific. Why? Because in Atlantic and Pacific, proper buffering is happening because both poles are well connected. The North Pole and South Pole, they are well connected to the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And some of the disturbances what are happening in the Pacific or some parts of Atlantic, it is generating additional heat in Indian Ocean region. How it is happening? Because in the Pacific, when the temperature budget is upset, for example, a phenomena like El Nino is happening. It is happening in December. This year, probably in December, when El Nino is happening in the Pacific, southern part of South America, there is a change in the thermal budget. So this change in thermal budget needs to be accommodated somewhere. So additional heat is being generated, and there is a specific atmospheric circulation. The name of the circulation is called Walker circulation. This circulation will bring in more heat energy to the Indian Ocean region. So there is a more transfer of heat energy happening from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean region. This is happening through a changed atmospheric bridging mechanism called Walker circulation. So when more heat is coming from Pacific to Indian Ocean, it is coming with a time lag. December is when El Nino is happening. After 4 months, we have a more additional heat coming to the Indian Ocean region. So if more heat is coming after 4 months, it is exactly coinciding with Indian summer. Summer is otherwise very hot. If you come to India during summertime, it is very hot, particularly to our place and all. The temperatures are high and the humidity is also very high. You can feel the temperature. In many parts of South Asia, it's the same. So we have more temperature in summer months, and additional temperature is coming because of this changed circulation pattern which is happening because of this extreme event called El Nino, what is happening in the south of South America. Temperature is increasing. Our feeling is like the temperature is increasing. The problem is like there can be glacier melting, more water is coming through the inland waters and can come into the oceans. When ice sheets are melting, it can create a lot of water. That is what we... When ice is melting, it is definitely adding to the volume of water, but the problem is like the volume of water is increasing because there is a thermal expansion of water happening because the temperature is increasing. When the temperature is increasing, there is a thermal expansion of water. When thermal expansion of water is happening, the same amount of water which is present in the oceans, they require more space to occupy themselves because the water is expanding. It is thermally expanding because of the additional heat what is generated. So this excess volume has to be accommodated somewhere. So all the inundated areas nearby, the low-lying areas, they bear the impact of this thermal expansion because of increasing sea surface temperature. When temperature is increasing in the sea, it leads to thermal expansion, and this thermal expansion needs more volume for the oceans to occupy its present amount of water, and this extra volume of water will get spilled into the low-lying areas or inundated areas. So more water is coming, sea level is rising. Another important problem what we are facing is because of ocean acidification. I told after the industrial revolution took place, there is more carbon dioxide getting pumped into the atmosphere.
نه یه لینک فرستاد با اون فرق داره. آره دیگه من
When more carbon dioxide is there in the atmosphere, this carbon dioxide can come into the seawater, which can reduce the pH of the seawater. When pH is getting reduced, it becomes acid. Generally, it is alkaline. The general pH is supposed to be between 8.3 or something, but now we have reduced pH. After a period of time series data, if we check, we have reduced pH. It is coming very slow because this ocean is a good buffer. The buffer in the sense like some of the acidification, what is happening, it can be adjusted with the type of limestone what is present. Like there are a lot of organisms which are having limestone exoskeleton. So the calcium carbonate rich oceans will try to buffer this activity. So slowly what is happening, some of the organisms which have calcareous exoskeletons, calcium carbonate in this exoskeleton, they will have to partly share their exoskeleton. That's creating a lot of problems for them. So this acidification, even though it is happening in a very small fashion, if you check the pH, it is decreasing slowly. But this decrease in pH is after all the buffering what is happening in this system. The calcium carbonate which is present in the system is coming less and less because this buffering has to be substituted with this calcium carbonate. So these problems are happening, and we now have serious ocean acidification, which is definitely impacting shelled, which is because most of them have calcium carbonate, skeletal forming organisms, including coral reefs. Corals are subjected to a lot of issues. A major problem I told about corals. Corals are seriously getting impacted. I studied a coral reef ecosystem for a long time. I know seriously the community structure changed. The marine ecosystem structure as well as function has seriously changed. If you look into the corals, if you dive into this environment, it is very beautiful. That beauty is now totally different. What type of corals, what I have seen when I snorkel for the first time and what I see now, it's totally different. Previously, we had a lot of branched corals, beautiful branched corals. Now we have more like stony corals like Porites. What is happening is like, I can myself, from my studies, I can say that we had problems of coral bleaching, which occurred in 1998, 2002, 2005, 2010, 2015, and there were some episodic El Nino-based ENSO disturbances happening in Indian Ocean region during the last 3 years of 2017, 18, 19, and 20 with some sort of problems in this environment. So with the changing marine ecosystem related temperature, the corals are real sufferers. They have serious problem. It is not only the corals are affected. When corals are affected, this is an essential fish habitat. So an essential habitat is suffering. It will be reflected in all the other elements which is present in this beautiful ecosystem. Not only the coral is affected, all associated organisms. We can even see sometimes when the coral bleachings are happening, bleaching is happening in sea anemone also, which is the habitat of clownfishes. So like that, we can see a serious cascade of events happening after this. So when corals are having serious bleaching episodes, there is a serious change in the community structure which is happening there. It gets smothered with algae because polyps come out and polyps die. That becomes nutrients and serious microalgal infestation corals, and all these dead corals will become rubbles in a matter of time. So this sort of serious change is happening in this essential fish habitat. Now we have serious change in the rainfall process, what we are seeing with more warming, more water evaporates from oceans, lakes, and soils. So with every 1 degree rise in temperature, the atmosphere can hold 5% more water vapor. So when rain is happening, it pours. Heavy intensity rainfall is happening in wetter places. In 2018, we faced floods because the holding capacity, the water vapor holding capacity increased because there was increase in temperature, and it results in more frequent rainfalls. And those places which are drier, they become more drier. And even in those places where rainfall is happening, when rain is happening for 3 hours, it's a major rainfall. In 3 hours, we get flood. It's not like there is there needs to be a 4 days or 5 days rain required for flood. In 3 days, we get 3 hours, we get local floods. So that is the intensity in which rain is coming down. People find it difficult to drive even in such rains. So heavy intensity rainfall happens. And after this rain, again, it's drought period. Next day, there may not be rain. Maybe for the next 1 week or 2 weeks, there may not be rain. Previously, in places where normal rainfall seasons are there, we had a scattered pattern. Every day we'll get some good rain. It is not like in the intensity what we are having now. So there is a serious change in the pattern of precipitation. This precipitation is bringing in a lot of water and creates a lot of flood, which is an extreme event. So we are sure that there is change in pattern in the local weather, what is happening. So when temperature is increasing, a major phenomena what is happening in the oceans per se is called stratification. When temperature is increasing, we have serious ocean stratification happening. So when this ocean stratification is happening, the nature will try to break this stratification. There's a stratification happening, nature want to break this stratification. This breaking of stratification, because of increasing temperature, is envisaged in the form of cyclones. So cyclone is a barrier breaking process. There is a stratification breaking process. So temperature brings in more stratification and nature wants to break it and it produces more cyclones. So there is increase in the frequency of cyclones also. There is increase in the intensity of cyclones also. Now we are in an effort to name all the cyclones on regular basis, and like sometimes we have to name 2 or 3 cyclones in the region because simultaneously we see cyclone formation happening at different locations in the Indian Ocean itself. So that is the type of frequency or intensity in which cyclones are increasing. When cyclones are increasing, it is really impacting the poor fishermen, fisher folk who are going for fishing. They are immediately told, there is a cyclone which is going to happen. You cannot go and do the fishing. There is a statutory warning. As specialists in climate science, we know that cyclones are happening. We can give the track of cyclone also. But 1 or 2 days before, because we have strong early warning systems in place, we tell the fishermen, you cannot go to the sea unless and until we tell you to go to the sea. So they lose their proper working days. In most of this highly populated coastal communities, fishing is still small scale. They go to the sea, they earn their livelihood, they come back and eat their food. That is the routine way in which the things are happening in this part of the world. So when small scale fishing is happening, and we are telling this poor fishermen, you cannot go and fish because there is a cyclone warning, they are losing many of their working days. You can see that is clearly reflected in the fish landings also, because they are unable to go to fish. The effort is less and the landing is less, and they are unable to sustain their livelihood. There is a serious impact of climate change on their daily livelihood. They cannot even eat their food because they eat it's a subsistence fishing. If they go to the sea, they get fish, they can eat. So that process is disturbed. There is a serious disruption happening in many of the coastal communities because of the increasing intensity in which cyclones are happening. These are some of the ways in which people have come up with mechanisms by which they can predict or how easily they can say about the cyclone warning systems, track the cyclones. Okay, we can definitely reduce the casualties, but what we can do with the poor fishermen who cannot do anything but sit idle at home when cyclone is happening. Now we have the serious problem of sea level rising. That is another major issue. What is happening? Sea level is rising, and all inundated areas, they get a serious flooding of water during high tide. Most of the areas of the world where coastal communities are living, they are seriously subjected to flooding and ebbing because of semi-diurnal tidals what are happening in this area. And in particular, here we have this semi-diurnal tides. We have 2 high tides and 2 low tides. So when 2 high tides are happening, along with the sea level rise, this tidal waters, they submerge many of the low-lying systems. So this submersion is happening in such a way that the coastal communities who are residing, they are thickly populated. The density of the population in the coastal areas are much, much higher than the interior areas. So they have their households which are very, very, very nearby. Like, for example, if a person looks from his window, just like the flats in the cities, the next window can be seen. That is the intensity of population living in a coastal fishing village. But they don't have the infrastructure just like the apartments in the coastal areas. So their septic tanks, their drinking water system, all gets mixed up because of the flooding what is happening during the high tide along with the sea level rise. Sometimes, like the place where I am staying, it is called Kochi Corporation. The corporation themselves, they have installed pumps to pump out water from the residential areas when the high tides are occurring and they're submerging the coastal habitating areas. So these sort of problems are seriously impacting. So when we say that we are losing a lot of ice, it is not only losing of ice, what is happening in the polar regions, it is losing of habitats. So such problems will add more grievances to the irritating problem of increasing temperature. So we clearly know that there is serious change happening in the environment. So this serious change, what is happening in the essential fish habitats are affected. The fish as a resource is getting affected, and it is really impacting the resource users like the fishers also. So the variables are changing. I told about the temperature. I told about the sea level rise. I told about the acidification, what is happening. I told about the extreme events, the changes in which these extreme events are creating problems at the local level and how it is impacting the marine ecosystems. And the environmental changes are impacting the resources. There are distributional shifts of fish. There are changes in the productivity. There are problems in the coral reefs, which I have already indicated. There are changes in the total fish which is being produced. There is, in this part of the world, particularly in the Indian Ocean region, there is decrease in primary production. Primary producers, they are the catalyst for the secondary and tertiary producers. If primary production is really affected, it is going to affect the fish per se. So the primary production, what is happening here, it is really affecting the resources because the primary production is showing a decreasing trend in this region. Because of the change in the environmental variables, there is reduced primary production happening here. If fish is not there in the waters, what will be the fate of the resource users? So there is serious migration happening in the livelihood also. People lose their income. They lose their property. And I told, with increasing temperature, more water-associated diseases are happening, which are creating health problems for the people. In the One Health framework, if you see, the environmental health is primary to every health. So the environment is changing. There are water-associated diseases happening in more frequency, and it is clearly creating health problems to the fisheries community, which results in debt and unemployment. So if you see the type of different events what are happening and in their frequency, there is a clearly registered increasing trends what is happening. Whether it be in the form of heat waves, we have more marine heat waves happening. Temperature will cross 1.5 degrees Celsius more than the mean in a decade and a half. More increase in frequency and intensity and duration of marine heat waves will happen. I told about the rainfall variability and intensity, what is happening and which brings in floods and droughts. Sea level is rising. Cyclones are becoming fiercer and frequent. And this creates a lot of problems for the aquatic ecosystems, resources, and resource users, particularly the fisher folks. They are at stake. Now, what is the pathway which is being indicated? We are trying to see, like, every country is making its own greenhouse gas inventory. They have their own national targets. So we have to reduce the greenhouse gas. Reducing the emissions, mitigation is the important thing what is being discussed in different parts of the world. Every country is having its own inventory management system. They are trying to populate with data on greenhouse gas accumulation or emissions happening in different sectors, whether it is in the power transmission, in the transportation, shipping, in fishing, in civil construction. So they are trying to see like how much each sector is emitting, and they are making big databases. So there is big inventories happening in different parts of the world, and all the countries are in the process of doing it because we have the conference of party. Next month, some people who are listening this or some of the climate scientists, they will be at the Middle East. They will be discussing in the COP over further what is the status of the different targets which have been given to them. Every country is given a target of coming themselves. There is a target like every country has to be net zero in emission levels. They have to emit less. Many countries are still doing better, but some countries are really facing the challenge. So there are inventories being generated. Every year it presented what is the status of the inventory. We have to come with transparency report. We have to come up with our status reports. So we are seeing like an inventory is being formed to see like how each sector is producing the greenhouse gases, how each sector is trying to reduce it. But when there is already a damage being done, there are a lot of biophysical changes which are already witnessed. I told about the different changes which are happening in the coastal realm, and that is really impacting the aquatic life, and per se, it is affecting the major resource from the sea, the fish. We have generated what is going to happen in the future also. In Indian condition, things are not so green. So there are problems which we are facing. I told about the increasing temperature, what is happening. So irrespective of the different scenarios in which we can see like how the representative concentration pathways with more additive energy pumped into the system. If it is 2.6 or 0.4, 4.4 or 8.5, we have generated. But the latest IPCC reports clearly say that we have to include the socio-economic component to it. You can tell about the variables. I can tell that this is happening. But if it is not coming into the societal level, how much the community is going to get affected? What is the loss? What is the damage? What are they going to face? Whether we have the shared socio-economic pathway scenarios, are we going to come up with some solutions for the society or the community per se? We have to have such socio-economic components also to be added into this. Now, coming to the areas which are seriously affected by this process, we have serious change in the production. I told about the primary production, which is getting declined. It will create some problem on the ecology. So there's some examples which I told us about the change in the species composition in the coral reef habitat and how it can affect the yield of the fishes, how the habitat destruction is happening. What are the different factors which are really attributing to this habitat destruction, and what is the seasonality in which this is operating? How there is emergence of diseases. I told about coral bleaching and the calcification changes. It is affecting the fishing, aquaculture, and post-harvest operations. We have problems of cost involved, the efficiency in which these things are happening, the safety and security of the people, the infrastructure security is also a problem. So community livelihood is seriously affected because of these risks which are happening now in different coastal communities. So we have some measures by which either we can mitigate some of things, we can reduce. I told about the inventory of greenhouse gases, we have to reduce that. So mitigation measures can happen. But if it is not happening, we have to find a solution, like the people have to move from one place to another. People have to have migration of employment also. They have to adapt to the situation. Situation is not going to change, they have to adapt. So it is having a serious impact on social, the society per se. It is having serious impact on the market-driven cultures. Like the fish is not produced in the same way it is produced before. There is change in the structure and community. So how it is going to impact the market? What is the problem with the water? If the water is not to be the same like what we are seeing, it is having serious impact on all the resources. So some of the projections what we have, like how the food is getting impacted with 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree, 5 degree, and 6 degree Celsius. Initially, we had some yield increase when the temperature was increasing. That was happening in some high latitude regions. But as the temperature is increasing, we have more emergence of pests. We have more emergence of disease incidents. There are falling crop yield. Even the crop itself is not getting converted into proper yields because of increasing temperature. So falling yields in many developed regions are also happening now. Water, small mountain glaciers disappears. It impacts the water supplies. When the temperature is further increasing, there are significant decreases in water availability in many areas, including Mediterranean and Southern Africa. And now with more increase in temperature, it threatens many of the well-developed coastal urban areas in the form of major cities. Like we know the troubles we are facing in Mumbai as a commercial city when there are serious incidences of rains or floods, what is happening in that city. Serious damage to the ecosystem. Even with a small increase in temperature, we could see like the changes in the corals. And many rising number of species are facing extinction because of increased temperature. Extreme weather events, definitely we have a database which clearly indicates that we are having rising intensity of storms, forest fires, droughts, flooding, and heat waves. There is a risk of abrupt and major irreversible changes. we sell that there is a point at which we cannot come back. So this problem is happening. Increasing risk of dangerous feedbacks and abrupt large-scale shifts in the climate system. This is impacting the coastal as well as aquaculture farmers also, because it is creating some problem in the physiology, like the survival and growth and disease. Just like I told in the case of crops, in the case of aquaculture farms also, there were physiological stress they were facing. There are problems in the ecology also, organic and inorganic cycles, ecosystem services, everything got affected. There are operational problems like the same species which were grown in one area, they are not able to grow, particularly in the case of hill aquaculture. In case of the freshwater species which were happening very close to the coastal areas, now there is ingression of seawater. Many of the waters are becoming saline. Our own practices also added to these problems. Shrimp farmers are also almost facing problems when there is extreme events happening, when there are cyclones happening. Farms located in shallow waters, solar radiation is a big problem, and the increasing water temperature is having a serious effect on the crops. More problems related to water quality. I told microbial load is increasing, oxygen levels are decreasing, increased diseases and associated diseases. Fishes reduce their feeding, then it results in the growth performance, and as such, we have less thermal tolerant species here. The major threat in another form will be the cyclones and storm surges, which can devastate the entire farming regions. If we have sea cages, the cages can get drifted away. And there are serious problems happening in the form of harmful algal blooms also. The bloom toxicity is creating a lot of problems. The fishes are dying either because of hypoxia. If hypoxia is not happening, if there are intermittent blooms happening and they are generating a lot of toxins that can get accumulated, particularly in the case of shellfishes, molluscans, which are filter feeders. So this bloom advisories from the mariculture point of view is an important thing which we have to tackle. So we have problems in the variables, which can be seen like it is affecting the biophysical process, and it is really impacting the biology. It is creating problem in the biology of the species which we are dealing with it. And finally, it results in less fish production and less profit for the aquaculture farmers who are doing aqua farming. In capture fisheries, we have problems like distributional changes. Like one of the most cherished fish in the part of the country where I'm living, it is called Kerala, Kochi. We have beautiful oil sardines. It's very tasty. It's a cheap fish also comparatively, but now the prices are increasing because there are serious distributional changes, and sometimes we have dearth in supply of this species. This species used to top as #1 species in Indian marine fisheries, but now sometimes when we are looking at the top 10 species, this species is not there. There are serious distributional changes happening. There are changes in the phenology also. The time in which they are getting successful in their spawning, it is changing. When spawning shifts are there, the existing policies are not supporting the real spawners to have the proper breeding. We have a policy. These policies have been framed based on the typical situation in which they were breeding. Now there are spawning shifts. We have to take care of this spawning shifts and come up with new policies. Some species are maturing early in their life. They're becoming small in size. So all these problems are happening. Species which grow faster than before, like anchovies, sardines, they are becoming smaller in size. They indicate higher food requirement and faster turnover in generations also. This is one typical examples in which I try to capture the Indian oil sardine issue, where from 1960 to 76, how it happened, and 77 to 86, and 87 to 96, and 97 to 2006. There is a serious distributional shift. In the first figure, if you see, like, it was seen all along the west coast with this more intensity in the southwest coast. Kerala only the presence was there. Slowly it started getting distributed itself into the east coast. Now you see the entire Indian coast, the presence of sardine is there, and we are getting sardine from all these areas. It's not only in sardines, even in the demersal fishes like sharks, like there was a distributional pattern which we tried to see, like how the Spherna and the hammerhead shark, how it is going to get affected. And you can see the change in distribution. The green color at least indicates 0.5 probability. So if the 0.5 probability, the green color, what is seen in the ocean is much wider now, you can see after some period of time, if the RCP is 8.5 in 2091, 2100, it is very scarcely distributed. It will be seen only in certain location of the world or this part of the ocean, in the Indian Ocean region. So the distribution pattern can change drastically with the change in the temperature, what we are envisaging. So we told about the changes what are happening. So when there is a serious risk associated, we should have some objectively verifiable adaptation strategies. It can be in the form of habitat monitoring and management, coastal wetland management and scientific farming, vulnerability assessing and monitoring of fisheries resources, potential fishing zone advisories so that fossil fuel need not be spent for fishing activities, mariculture of climate resilient species. How many resilient species are there in mariculture now? Can we increase? Can we have diversified mariculture options? I told health. We have more seaweed farming. Ocean acidification is happening. We can resort to seaweed farming and more byproducts from seaweed. Implementation of minimum legal, already the resource are problem. I told even the fishes are becoming small and small. It can happen because if the stocks are not managed properly. We can integrate with the algal biorefineries. We can look forward for solar energies. Mitigation measures also should go along with adaptation strategies. We can have better price for the resources in the form of multi-vendor e-commerce things, low-cost fishing technologies development, adoption to integrated farming techniques. Even in the sea, we have come up with a technology called IMTA, which is in the coming slides also. That can help the coastal community to prepare better in a better manner to face the climate challenges. When the climate is affecting the fish stocks, there should be expanding no-take zones. We have to provide more shelter to the fish. We have to restore critical habitats. We have to regulate access to fishing grounds, changing from open access to controlled access or even quota protections so that we can reduce fishing pressure in coastal areas. We have to adopt ecosystem approach to fisheries management. So we can address multiple objectives in fisheries management by reducing impact of external stresses on natural stresses. Natural stresses is having a serious impact because of the climate challenge. Like some of the operational mechanisms can be in the form of fishing logbooks, boat movement tokens. We are trying to put all these things in practice in our own place. Color coding we have done for different states for the fishing boats, biometric cards to fishers, use of space technologies and IT tools. We have better vessel monitoring system and automatic identification systems, tracking the fishing boats by establishing high-frequency ground stations and high-frequency sets on board and on the fishing boats. Basically, two types of values are to be considered when from the value chain point of view. Value realization, value addition, and value creation. Realization, like we have to reduce the quality loss, what is happening in the entire chain. Because in the chain of fishing, we see like we have a lot of post-harvest losses happening. We can reduce that. After the fish as a raw material is coming, we can improve to the resource by giving more value addition. For example, I know there are some of the participants from Thailand. Thailand is doing very, very good. There are a lot of value-added products going from Thailand. But if you see the percentage of the products exported from India, it is hardly 4 to 6% value added. So there is a possibility of value addition. We can develop non-food, pharmaceutical and nutraceutical products which can supplement not only to the industry, but also to the health of the people. In addition, we have to have value creation also in the form of new markets. For example, just last week, we had this jellyfish bloom symposium number 7. This time it happened in Kerala, in Thiruvananthapuram. Every time it happens in different parts of the world. Last time it was in Cape Town. It took almost 4 years to happen in Kerala. So when jellyfish is now coming up as a bloom and it is affecting the fishing, we can consider jellyfish as a potential resource. It is eaten in different parts of the world. So we can have jellyfish bloom advisories. We can go there, catch the jellyfish, convert it into a better product, and we can export it. So there is a possibility. So we have to create new markets, proper certification, labeling, and traceability of products. We can even resort to blockchain approach also. So in general, we have a problem in the fisheries. There are susceptible fish species which will disappear commercially. There will be fish catch decline also, which can economically drain the fishermen. The extreme events also create a lot of problems for the coastal communities. So the major problems what the fishermen are facing is like the reduction or changes in the fish supply at the production level, loss of fishing days, the loss and damage to their boats and gear, damage to the coastal infrastructure. Sometimes when a cyclone strikes, like the fishermen are not able to do their normal business because they cannot go into the sea and come back from the sea. Their habitats are destroyed. They have to put some effort on revamping their living structures. So all those problems are happening. Again, fishing is one of the most lethal occupations also. So there are sea safety issues coming up in a very big manner, because now it's not the normal sea state what they are facing when they are going into the sea. Effects on coast, trade, and economic performance. All this is affecting poor fishermen. And there is no proper compensation of the payment on losses. If they are losing their days, they have to simply sit at home. And who are going to take care of this compensation of losses on their fishing days? Some governments, they are trying to improve the coastal protection by structures, temporary rehabilitation centers, insurance schemes, but the companies are not interested because of the serious uncertainties. Global forums are discussing this in a different fashion. I know our friend Krishnan from Bay of Bengal program, he is doing a serious study like how best he can have insurance schemes for the coastal communities. Proper weather warning can be a solution, but this statutory warning cannot help them in improving their livelihood. After the disaster is happening, how the post-disaster recovery can happen? What are the sea safety measures in addition what we should have in different countries? One is like improving the weather early warning systems. I told the early warning systems should not add to the burden of fishermen. More fishing time, promoting disaster risk management, improving security, ensure building capacity, like how best they can be empowered by building capacity, raising awareness, and financing adaptation and mitigation measures also. Like one mechanism is like improving the fuel efficiency norms of the boats, so that emissions can be kept at task. We can use different sort of energy. Like last week we had a discussion with the Norwegian team where they have recharging mechanisms at the sea. They have come up with beautiful wind-based energy harvesting systems in the sea itself. Even during cyclone time, they remain stable. They will tilt, but they remain stable because the turbine is below the water and it remains stable. And there are mechanisms by which the fishing vessels or other commercial freight carriers, they can charge themselves at sea. So there are possible ways in which we can have mitigation measures also. Blue carbon, including mangroves, seagrasses, and seaweeds, mass cultivation or reforestation activities can be some mitigation measures. So we have warming as the primary element. We told about some of the impacts what are happening in the aqua farming. What are the proper adaptive measures like? If we have to have proper diversification in the livelihood, we have to promote more mariculture and related activities. Now, mariculture per se is not an industry. So the industry, the feed industry is not interested in generating feed for mariculture species. Some of the coastal feeds can go into mariculture activities, but the problem is like we should have proper feed attractants. So the marine fishes also can feed on them. So at least for the time being, we have to have some better feeds, more care in handling, selective breeding and genetic improvements for high temperature tolerance. Increase feed inputs as the industry will grow. I know there are going to be marine feeds also. Adjust harvest as per the market schedules, market opportunities. Improve planning and sitting to conform to climate change predictions. Establish regular monitoring and emergency procedures. Focus management to reduce stress. Improve biosecurity measures. I told about the health risks. So we have to have monitoring mechanism to reduce such health risks, better treatments, management strategies, and genetic improvements for higher resistance. So along with warming, the next major problem what comes is like we have problems with the supplies. We have increased algal blooms. So we should have mechanisms to adaptive mechanisms to counter them also. Cyclones also have similar issues and we have to tackle cyclones and related thing also. Mitigations, I told about the inventory in which we can try to reduce the emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. We can eliminate inefficient fleet structures, which are excess in capacity. Overfishing is a problem. And now we can eliminate such inefficient fleet structures. We can have better management so that we can reduce post-harvest losses also. Increase waste recycling, which will decrease the sector's carbon dioxide emission. So improve the ecosystems ability to respond to external. We have to have technical solutions, which includes shifting towards static fishing technologies to more efficient vessels and gears. So this can be some win-win situations which have to be discussed in countries' fisheries related discussions where fleet size optimization is discussed at large. So the mitigation options are to reduce the fossil fuel consumption by fishing boat, mangrove protection and conservation to reduce sea erosion, energy efficient mechanism for propelling fishing boats, reduce fishing grounds area. The scouting time has to be reduced. Potential fishing zone advisories can be one measures. Like we can easily predict like where there can be a fishing grounds days before using the existing technologies. In India, we have operationalized potential fishing zone advisories since long. Like I know, like for the last 2 decades, it's in place. We are trying to refine it for species also. As far as possible, we have to use wind energy by having sailboats with appropriate engine facility. I told the Norwegians are having beautiful wind harvesting mechanism in the open sea. Even it is not affected by cyclones. So such energy can be harvested and utilized for different ecosystem-based services, like whether it is in the form of maritime navigational activities or fishing activities, we can use it. Better preservation of fish to prevent spoilage by using fish and insulated boxes at sea. Better marketing and cold chain facilities. Better climate smart critical control points should be identified in the fisheries value chain so that we can have better options. In Simafari, we have developed some of the systems. The first one is on some temperature tolerant species, low cost farming techniques, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, seaweed culture, technology development is happening for different species. And we are trying in the coastal areas to come up with saline resistant rice varieties, which can go along with the marine fin fishes also. Basically, in many of the countries, the fish is coming as a product which is landed in the harbors. But we really know like where they are exactly caught. So our team has come up with a passive georeferencing mechanism by which we can convert the catch orders reported in the landing centers to the place from where actual fishing has happened. So this passive georeferencing technology can be helpful when we are studying habitat distribution models using the projected temperature changes. I told about IMTA and lockage constructions, which are happening where we can integrate paddy and related things because saline resistant things are coming. Seaweed can be looked upon as a blue carbon initiative where we can integrate this with some of the fishing activities. This is the IMTA technology where we are having the cages. We are having the mussel farming systems, which takes excess waste, which is coming from the cages and fed to the mussel farming systems. The waste from the mussel farming systems is going to the seaweeds. And in general, India is setting an example by having less carbon emission because it's a small scale fishery. We are emitting 16.3% less than the global average when we produce 1 kilogram of fish from the harvest mechanism. These are some of the solutions. I know like I have talked for almost 1 hour, so we can have some interesting discussions with the topic I presented. Thank you, CIRDAP, for the opportunity. I am welcoming some questions which we can discuss in the forum. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for your very informative presentation. Actually, I have learned a lot of things here, like because when I was in school, we learned about the El Nino, but I thought it's just a general natural changing process of Earth. I didn't know that El Nino can have that some sort of devastation in the sector of fisheries and other sector also. And also the coral, the very interesting one, the coral color changes, coral reefs, and then other lots of things. I have some 1 or 2 questions to you, but before I ask anything to you, now I'm opening the floor of question and suggestions. If you have anything to ask to our honorable speaker, you can raise your hand or you can drop the questions in our chat box. Because I know right now I'm seeing there are 75% on this webinar. So of course, there are questions in your mind. So please, anyone, if you want to ask anything about the presentation or about anything else. You must ask anything. because because there are lots of terminology in there. So I guess because some of things. Okay, yes,
Orion?
Dr. Shabazz. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So first, let me just thank CIRDAP to what you said, organize this kind of webinars. I really appreciate them for their effort to gather all of us again, just to have some sharing of the experiences and knowledge. And secondly, I would like to ask this Dr. Grinson, George, just really I appreciate you because of this long experiences I could see that you have collected from this subject, and I really appreciate and just respect you. Just there are small comments from my side, but just before that, I wanted to endorse your comments regarding this global warming, which make the dried area much drier. I wanted to add here that you know that Iran is a dried and semi-dried area. Unfortunately, because of this global warming, most of our lakes are drying now. Just we are getting a lot of we are facing a lot of problems. I don't know, I can share some of our photos, just slides from my side, or not really, just we are facing the, what to say, huge areas are covered by the dust and salt storm. Not only dust and salt, because the terminal lakes who are collecting the salt from the region, that they are getting the dried, and a lot of salt storm are coming to our farmer area, and will be, what we say, weakened after this maybe some years later, because of the salt storm is really dangerous, not only for the agricultural land, cropping area, also for them. So we are really getting the problem in Iran because of this salt storm and drying the lakes. So I wanted to add here that this my colleagues CIRDAP, they know that I did my PhD in Bangladesh, Dhaka University of Bangladesh, in the Bay of Bengal, next to the urban area. So my area was the impact of the high salinity on the on the social and the people. So it was interesting to know that in that area that some of the fishermen, they love, that because of as you told, that the sea level rise is coming to the cropping areas, and also coming to the area. When the sea water is coming, so it means the saline water is coming. When saline water is coming, so the sea fish are coming. Sea fish are expensive, costly than the river fish. So some fishermen, they were happy to have the seawater, saline water, because they catch good, costly fish. So from that area, it was very interesting to me to know that. So they are happy. Some of them, they are happy, but the farmers, they were not happy. But some of them, they changed their livelihood to be a fisherman. Actually, it based the seasonality, they were changing. So, but some, they were happy because they could get the cost experiences in your area also or not. Thank you very much, Dr. Grinson.
Thank you, Dr. Shabazz. Initially, we do have such phenomena happening in different parts of the world. There is ingression of salinity towards the inundated areas, as I was presenting. So along with the increased inundation in salinity to the coastal areas, sometimes with the torrential rains, what are happening, localized blooms also happen. I told about the fish sardine, which is very common in our place. So when such increased salinity along with localized blooms, this sardine will come in search of food. So we call it as sardine runs. And sometimes you can see like they run very close to the coastal areas and they even jump to the shore because there is a hypoxia associated, there is feed associated issues. The feed attracts them. And when they come close to the shore, they understand that the oxygen is not up to the level and then jump. They jump to the shore also. So such runs of fishes are happening onto the beach also. So such massive fish kills happen because of the methane gas emission. So hypoxia related problems also drive them close to the shore. But these are some what we can say initial incentives for a big loss what is going to happen in the near future. So we are really losing the resources. We are really losing the normal terrain or the ecological niche in which these ecosystems are getting built upon. So there is a serious challenge which is being faced by the communities as well as the resources. So we have more problems than the benefits what we see out of the impacts of climate change, what is happening globally. Thank you for your. It will be lovely to see your slides also and some data sets. If we can work together, you can get my email and details also. And some were asking for the presentation. This presentation will be shared by Hurian in CIRDAP, as well as if somebody wants, I already shared my slides with her. You can have the slides also. There are a few questions in the chat box.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grinson.
There are a few questions in the chat box. Viraj Donde was asking, I want to know, are there any private organizations in India which are working on the climate change issues? Rather than calling them as private organization, I will call them as non-governmental organizations. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations working in this realm because it's not possible for government organizations alone to take up the activities related to research leads to the people. So Dakshin Foundation is one example, which is working in Bangalore. There are many of my friends associated with it. I know most of the organizations which are related with fisheries. There is Nansen Environmental Research Center in Kochi, which is a Norway-based organization, which is based in Kochi, which is working only on the marine aspects. CIRDAP is having an MOU, and I am the nodal person who's coordinating them activities with the Nansen Environmental Research Center in Kochi, India, which is based at Kochi. We have different organizations like even intergovernmental organizations like BOBP, IGO, Bay of Bengal organization, which is based at Chennai, and many of them. Some are looking exclusively on some resources. There are many related to water also. I'm not listing them. You can find them. There are many of them working in this area. They derive funds from the global programs. They derive funds from the national programs, and they do activities to supplement the research and related activities what we do as government organizations. Kumar Amarendra is asking, do you think artificial coral installation has the potential of coral restoration? It is not actually artificial coral installation. What we are doing is artificial reef installation. Artificial reefs are nothing but concrete structures which can promote growth of ecosystems in reef affected areas. We have a major program. It is led by a scientist called Dr. Joe Kidakkudan, who is based at Visakhapatnam Center of CIMFRI. He is the head of the center at research center at Visakhapatnam. What we do is like with the support of the government of India, we have identified locations where we can put artificial reefs. So we develop this concrete structures, and with the help of the fisher folks, we have to create awareness, because once we are putting this concrete structures, they cannot do activities such as trawling, because their gear will get damaged. So we put this artificial reefs, and we do the impact study also. After some time, we can realize that these artificial structures are generating a beautiful environment. We have a lot of incidences of frequent visiting of marine mammals. We have seen like the ecosystem is developing into the soft corals, sometimes even the hard corals, small patches, seaweeds, seagrasses. They are coming nearby these structures, and more biodiversity is occurring in these areas. So Government of India, through their PMSSY scheme, they have come up with a program in which they are installing artificial reefs all along the coast. In the state of Kerala, the Kerala State Inland Development Corporation, they have taken the lead, and they are putting artificial reefs. The next question is on monsoon ban working in order to restore marine catch. Okay. Why monsoon ban? Monsoon, we have a fishing ban. Why monsoon fishing ban is like, along with the southwest monsoon, we have something called upwelling happening. And the rainwater, which is happening in the terrestrial area, they bring through their discharge a lot of nutrients. So upwelling along with these nutrients generate some of diatomaceous blooms. Many of the marine fishes prefer this diatomaceous blooms. When these blooms are there, their young ones are born, and at the critical stage when they open their mouth, these blooms support food for them. So along with the upwelling, along with the terrestrial discharge, what is happening in the form of the rivers, this fish will get some food to eat. So they generally they adapt their physiological conditions along with the natural cycles. So southwest monsoon period is the right time for many of the fishes to breed, so that their young ones will have food to eat. So because of this, we are trying to protect these young ones as well as the breeding fishes. So we tend to ban many of the fishing activities so that the fish can breed peacefully. So that is why there is a monsoon ban. But of late, the studies have clearly indicated that along with the type of productivity what we are seeing in the monsoon time, we have another small the winter monsoon also. Thoughts indicating that we should have not only monsoon ban, what is happening in the summer monsoon, we should have ban or a regulation, fishing regulation happening in the winter monsoon also. So these are some scientific thought processes. I think it will take time to have fishing regulations during the winter monsoon time also. Next question is on the uncertainties. What are the uncertainties present in climate change? Exactly, the entire climate change process is totally uncertain, but how we are trying to reduce the uncertainty is using the data which is available from satellite remote sensing and modeling. These two things can give us better idea on how the variables are changing. There is a major initiative by the Europe. There is a major initiative by the European Space Agency. They have come up with Ocean Color Climate Change Initiative. Ocean color is nothing but the primary production what is happening. So if we can use satellite remote sensing and develop a time series data, they are doing it from 1998 onwards. Dr. Shubha Satyendranath, who is the leading scientist who is doing the Ocean Color Climate Change Initiative, is a collaborator of mine, and I can say mentor rather than a collaborator. So I work with them, and we have a time series data. So we have such information which help us to tackle the uncertainties. So we try to develop models, we try to use in situ information, we try to use satellite remote sensing derived data products to tackle such uncertainties what is happening in climate change. So these are some of the things by which we can have solutions for uncertainties what are happening in climate change. I think the time is going fast. I will see like if there are more questions, and then
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have one or two questions. Like in your slide, you mentioned about the green fishing. Actually, we have heard green economy, green technology, now the green fishing. So can you elaborate more about the green fishing?
When the fishing process is happening, if we produce 1 kilogram of fish, then 1 kilogram of fish is produced with some emission. Like the vessel is going into the sea, they may use fossil fuel. They may use fossil fuel for harvesting the fish also. So this fossil fuel will add to the emissions. So in the entire process of harvesting the fish, for producing that 1 kilogram of fish, there is some emission, carbon dioxide emission happening. So if we can reduce those fossil fuel usage, so one such technology is called potential fishing zone advisories. Using satellite remote sensing and modeling, we can tell fishermen where they can go and fish so that their scouting time is reduced. So the number of hours they are spending, we have such technologies. So PFZ is one technology by which we can reduce the fossil fuel usage. That is one green fishing mechanism. Then there are some gears which are adding more emissions. So we can have a list of the gears and we can prioritize based on the resources what we are having. So such activities are happening. So such activities are in general called as green fishing. And we can use even better resources for renewable energies also for recharging the fishing vessels. I told about the Norwegian examples where they are fishing at the sea itself. So such things can happen, and we can have improved fishing mechanism. I have seen one more question in the chat box. By Professor T.S. Nagesh. Any attempts are being made to compile the existing data and identify climate change critical control points in Indian marine fishery sector? Yes, we are doing it. It's a major component. We have a team of scientists working on the value chain, starting from the production to the consumption system, and we are trying to identify the climate change, climate smart or climate change related critical control points. So it is getting documented. We are in the process. Next question is by Amarendra. Will seaweed culture system installation along the coastal area help in order to improve present condition in India, as seaweed has beneficial effects? Yes, definitely. The problem is like we can have a large number of seaweed farming systems, but we lack the inputs to be provided to the farmers. To do the farming, they require the input material also, like in the form of seed for seaweed farm. That's why the cup of ficus has the non-Indian seaweed has had a dominant part in the seaweed farming system in India. We are trying to come up with Indian indigenous seaweeds also. We are trying to see like how best we can imbibe more foreign varieties also, which can be less invasive. So such efforts are done at CIMOFA. We are trying to come up with better inputs for the farmers so that more people can come into this seaweed farming system. Another thing what is deterring people from doing seaweed farming is like the leasing opportunity they don't have. Because when they are putting seaweeds in a public area, there are a lot of threats they are facing. So Government of India is trying to come up with proper leasing policies so that more multinational companies can come up and start this seaweed culture, so seaweed farming. So CIMOFA is doing a lot of research in this area also. Thank you for the questions. Hirin, do you have any more questions? I think I answered all the questions in the chat box. No, Bhaskar is asking why can't we collaborate with Fisheries Department along Indian coast for supporting innovative technologies to reach fishermen livelihood? Yes. Whatever techniques we are generating, we develop schemes also. Sometimes we operate along with the Fisheries Ministry. They give us funds even to do the developmental activities also. This artificial reefs programs, it is with the developmental support of the Ministry of Fisheries through the PMMSY scheme. It is Prime Minister's Matsya Sampada Yojana. We develop schemes for the National Fisheries Development Board also. Presently, the person who is handling the Fisheries Development Board, he is a scientist himself. So the technology is passed on from us to them. We generate schemes for them. As a scientist, we also would like to see our schemes getting implemented at the grassroots level. So we are not deterrent to any schemes. Let us join hands together and have more schemes so that the technologies what we develop in the lab should go to the grassroots level. Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion, Bhaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we still have some time. If you have any more questions.
Is it, I thought like I overshot the time. Towards the end of my presentation, I was running faster because I wanted to finish in time.
So that's okay, sir. That's fine. If
Thanks.
not, you can ask. All of you can send the suggestion or questions to us via email, and I can forward those questions and suggestions to our speaker. So later he can answer also if anything doesn't happen in your mind.
I saw some senior people in the participant list also, like His Excellency Ponchai also was there. I saw
Yes.
DG himself joining sometime. I don't know whether he's still there. Regards to all of them, thanks for all the senior people who have joined for the program despite your busy schedule. Thanks for all.
Oh, DG sir just joined. So okay, okay, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Grinson George. I apologize for coming late after sending our course director of the training program to Thailand a moment ago. Our training was successful, organized this year.
Nice to know that. Last time I was physically present there. It was a great program.
Right.
It's happy that the flagship program is going well.
Okay. I was asked by the government of Bangladesh like to organize a training program in Bogora, Bangladesh, on the climate change and disaster impact on food security in Asia and the Pacific. We will certainly invite you to be our resource person
It's always
next
a
year.
pleasure, sir.
And we'd like to gather all the information about the climate change and disaster impact on food security in the region. And we hopefully that we can work with each country to obtain the assessment of the readiness of each country. And we'll provide a kind of training program for their officials in order to operate this mitigation, adaptation, and build up resilience for farmers and fish farmers. And I hope that this will be action and to accelerate the SDG 13, as well as number 14, life underwaters, fisheries and aquaculture and others. So I hope that you will be important person for this program.
And wishes of us also. I mentioned it at the starting of the presentation, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have seen there is one more question in the chat box by Mr. Eftikar. He is indicating like he wanted to know the relationship between emerging fish diseases and climate change. Basically, what we have tried to look upon is like whether the increasing temperature is having a significant change in the microbial load. And it is. With the increasing temperature, we have a serious increase in the microbial load. So increase in the microbial load indicates that there is more organisms which can create diseases. At the same time, this change in temperature, we have seen there are emergence of new species also. So there are such issues coming up. So we do have some significant data, but it is really difficult to say from the climate change point of view. But in the last meeting on a national level from India, it was decided that this change in the microbial shift, what is happening in the environment as well as in the gut. Even our gut is also changing. The microbial flora inside our gut is also changing because of the changing weather conditions. So we have to tackle it either in the form of probiotics or prebiotics or different mechanisms. So we should be working on those aspects also. More information will be revealed in the near future, but definitely we do have some significant relations which have been obtained by the time series data which we have been collecting in the last 2 decades. There is one more question. Other than KMNO4, what is the criteria to cure fish disease? Oh, this is a typical disease question. So we should know the exact disease, the etiology, then we have to have a cure. KMNO4 is a mechanism by which we are trying to weed out some of the this mechanism. So there are different diseases that are working only on fish diseases. They will be a better person to answer your question also. Even CIRDAP can think on having one seminar on fish diseases which are emerging. Thank you.
Okay, we are almost at the end of our webinar, but if you still have a question, we can provide 1 or 2 minutes to you. If anything else you want to suggest us how to improve our webinars. Okay, okay, yes, I will try to send this recorded video because it's a very 1 hour and a half, 30 minutes video. So I will try to send this. Okay, there is a suggestion from our Philippine delegates, like, may I suggest in the succeeding sessions to include the experience and measures employed of other countries in the Asia and Pacific. Okay. And there are another questions to you, sir, Dr. Grinson. If there is an overall rise in temperatures globally, why do some regions experience record-breaking low temperatures?
Okay, we have the peak, the dips and the peaks also. So we do have happening with other variables also. So when when I told about precipitation, there are areas becoming wet, becoming wetter, dry, becoming drier. So the same way in the case of temperature also, the colder areas are affecting cold waves. Just like the marine heat waves, we have cold waves also. So all the variables, they have their minimas and maximas, which are at much significant differences. When these differences are increasing, it is mainly because of the impacts what we have on the climate variables. So this significant decrease is the main problem. We have a serious ranges, like when it is cold, it's a cold wave. When it is heat, it's change in the local weather conditions, which is becoming uncomfortable and creating more and more chances for we have more such problems here. And it is worthwhile to consider the suggestion of the Filipino delegate, like we have to include experiences and measures employed of other countries in the Asia Pacific. Generally, we do have such discussions when we have that CIRDAP technical committee meeting also. The representatives from different country come and share experiences. So we can have such panel discussions along with the webinars. We can have such panel discussions with the representatives from different countries sharing ideas. That's it. We can do that.
Okay.
I have.
We are okay, sir. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Clear.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. You can see that different countries at the moment are facing the climate impact, especially on the El Nino effect. And World Bank in particular have warned the region that it may affect the food security in different countries start from now until next year. And it is a task for each country to work with the community at risk in order to prepare in advance what will affect their food production and in particular the value chain and transportation of food and distribution of food as well. So this kind of thing, do you think that every country have been prepared enough in order to do this work, or should there be any kind of central organization to work with them in order to prepare or prepare the work plan, action plan to deal with the issues?
Okay, as part of the conference of parties, we have some of binding agreements, and now there is a in all the greenhouse inventories. That is one for the mitigation plan, and for the adaptation strategy, we have to have the transparency report in which we are discussing on the loss and damage which can happen in different sectors due to this change in the climate variables. So
yeah, I mean that, do we have any kind of prediction risk map for each country? The area where there will be impact of this climate and weather change to each country, so that we can communicate with them on how to prepare and how to work with the community.
Okay.
Any risk map do you have?
Basically, risk assessment. Risk assessment needs to be done. So for the future scenarios, we have IPCC models, CMIP 6 models are available. So based on the latest annual report, we have to have the proper risk assessment done based on the type of number of hazards, locality to which your country belongs, going to affect your local areas, and depending upon the community which are residing in that area, we have to come up with a vulnerability assessment So the first is the hazard, second is the vulnerability assessment, and finally, depending upon the exposure, we have to come up with a risk assessment mapping as DG was suggesting. So when this risk assessment mapping is done with a better resolution, it depends on the data you have. In India, we are trying to come up with a coastal, in case of marine, we are coming with the coastal district, because coastal district is the lowest grassroots level in which we can have the data. So we are having the grid-based internet, and we are coming up with the village level data, but we are looking as a solution for the coastal district area. So we have risk assessment maps being prepared for the entire coastal districts, like the 72 districts we have this. So from this, we can prioritize like which area is going to have more impact because of these hazards. Then we should have action plans. These action plans will be based on the risk assessment, what is done. But it's not exactly the same for all the countries. We do have low data sets available from the models. But again, from this low resolution data sets, what are available, we have to come up with the risk assessment maps as the Honorable DG was suggesting. And these maps will give us some idea on the solutions, what we should be prepared for. Then we can have some solutions for the targeted series. Now we can have high level
Thank you very much. I think that we need to work together, Dr. Grinson George, and trying to identify the high risk location in different countries. And we could consult with the committee of CIRDAP in order to note about these important issues and communicate within each country to prepare. So your presentation is very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, actually, we are at the end of our time. So, okay, thank you so much for joining with us. It's a huge response to us. And thank you, Dr. Grinson George. And we got your presentation. It will be published in our website also, and it will be shared with all the participants. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
This is an opportunity for me to create awareness also. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good day. Good day to all of you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Maybe we can have a group photo. Everybody can open this camera.
Okay. Okay. So can you please all open your video so I can take?
I've seen close to 78 participants. The number of participants for webinars have improved quite a lot, like 78 participants.
Yes, highest 78. Okay. Yes. So I'm going to take the screenshot. So can you please open your video? So
excellent.
Okay, I'm going to take the photos now. Okay, another one. Okay, and the last one, third one.
Where is Dr. Grinson George?
Sorry?
He's here.
I'm here.
He is here, sir.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I have taken the photos.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
all of you for your time and patient listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grinson George. Thank you very much. Really, it was an interesting presentation. Thank you, DG CIRDAP.
Thank you, sir.